This is where I'm at with the Cobra build right now. You can see I built this wooden platform. This is going to be the base or the floor for the frame. So I'm going to be building the frame and using this to clamp it to it. I got the engine in here. This board right here simulates the rear wheel. So I'll be able to build the frame. I won't have to worry about clearance issues because I got all the components here. You can see that the idea is I can, actually like clamp some frame pieces here to it while I weld it up. Gives me some flexibility to have this wood platform. I can also draw on it, make measurements, all kinds of things that I think it's going to help out with. But I did kind of take a break from working on the Cobra. Some other projects kind of took over, and you can see that's why there's all this junk on here, just doing other projects. For instance, I started doing some boat restoration, some sailboat restoration. Kind of boring, probably won't get into that. Built these things right here. This is going to be like a camera pan, so I can do some time lapses as I build the frame. I have something similar up here that does the same thing. Made videos on both of those. Probably will post those. Another thing I was working on is this mill. This is a Harbor Freight mill. In one of the earlier videos, I actually broke this while drilling into some metal. It had a plastic gearbox. So I have a video where I actually put a metal gearbox into here that I customly made. Not that well, but it's been working for me. And that brings me to two projects that I'm actually really excited about. The thing about me is I start projects. It's really exciting for me to start a project. Almost more exciting, to plan it out and do all that stuff than even finishing it. So I get into a lot of trouble, starting new projects, biting off more than I can chew. And I'm really trying to, focus a little bit more on the core things I really want to work on, such as the Cobra and a couple other things that are coming down the pipeline that I'm pretty excited about. But that brings me to this CNC plasma cutter. So it doesn't look like anything right now, but this is going to be the frame for a CNC plasma cutter. The reason I wanted to build this is my garage is kind of lacking when it comes to being able to process sheet metal. So this is going to allow me to do a lot better job of that. Actually, a lot of the components on the Cobra, use sheet metal. So, for instance, on the frame, there's a lot of uses of sheet metal where you can actually make it structural. Sheet metal is sometimes better than like cross members. Also, there's all kinds of different components on it, like a firewall, the dash panel. All of those are going to be made out of sheet metal. So I really needed something that would be able to, create these pieces, because I don't have anything currently that I can cut it with, or I have an angle grinder, but that doesn't produce the quality stuff that I'm looking for. So got a few more weeks on this project. Hopefully once I get that done, I'm going to put all my efforts back into the Cobra. But there is another thing that I have been working on with my dad. So I'm very lucky to have my dad be retired. In his retirement, he decided that he wanted to build a garage and basically turn it into a mini auto shop. And alongside that, he also purchased a Mustang as a project car that we were going to do some modifications to make it into a really great track car. So I have a lot of fun projects planned for that. Really excited about it. Luckily, the projects are probably going to be pretty small, and they can be, bitten off on bite-sized chunks. So, you can do a little here, a little there. The car, is fully functional, it's fully running, so I don't have to worry. Don't have to put too much time into that car. But it will be fun to add a lot of cool things to it that will make it into a track car that we can maybe even race. So that's a project that is going to be a long-term thing that I'm going to be working on with my dad. But most of the time I really want to focus into the Cobra. So for the rest of the video, I'm going to play some clips that I've taken of, for instance, building that platform and getting some other components for the Cobra. So I'm going to play those clips, just a couple short clips. And that's pretty much it for the update. As far as videos, I'll probably be posting those other couple projects that I talked about. And then when it comes to the frame, it's going to be a while. So I just wanted to give that update that, you know, not giving up, but there's been a couple delays, and the next update about the frame is probably going to be at least a few months. Just got home with the order of steel. This is what we're going to use to build the frame. Got 3 lengths of 24 foot of the square tubing. It's 1.5 inch, 16 gauge. And then 4 lengths, 24 foot of this drawn over mandrel tubing, 1.625, and it's got 0.12 thickness, wall thickness. So I'm just gonna go unload these, and this is it. It's around 300 pounds of steel, around $800. I probably could have gotten it cheaper, but just didn't really want to fool around. The steel place I got it from I like, so there it is. Let's unload it. There it all is. Hopefully that'll be enough steel. We'll see. Alright, well, while we were welding up the tube bender, the FedEx truck showed up and delivered my seat. So this will be the racing seat that we'll put in the Cobra. Going to be designing the frame kind of around the seat because it's going to be a tight fit. Also kind of will get the pedal spacing, the steering, all that designed around the seat and how I fit in it. So let's unbox it. There it is. Been cleaning up the garage last couple weeks. It's a little bit better, it's not great. Got all the Mustang parts in these boxes. Most of the Mustang parts are in this big crate that my tool chest came in. So the only problem is this thing weighs like a couple 100 pounds. It's got all the big parts in there. So I'm gonna try and roll this, I don't know, maybe on some bars. I got a couple bars laying around here, and then get it in that corner over there because I don't want it in the middle of the garage. So I'm gonna try that right now. Alright, that's what's left of the Mustang. One of the things I kept were these bolts. So these are all the bolts off the Mustang. You know, we got some pretty big ones there from the suspension. That's all quality bolts right there. So it's a shame throwing those out. So I'm going to try and use as much of those as I can on the new Cobra. There's the engine in the center of the garage. I'm going to build the frame around that. I'm going to use it as a reference so I can get placement, especially like the pedal boxes. Those are going to be really tight between the engine and the transmission. So there we go. So all the studs are laid out, got them shimmed up, and it's perfectly level. See, there's no gaps, which is perfect. So now we're going to put the plywood on here, and then should be a nice floor surrounding the engine. All done. All right, so I think I found the perfect spot for the seat. It's going to be on a slight angle. That way this outside edge can come in a little bit, and it kind of works out just because my legs are going to be angled that way to the pedals, just to clear this bell housing. So it's pretty good, and it's going to be very close to this, so the seat will pretty much get right up to there where my foot is. I really like this this wood platform here. It's going to let me put, mounts for welding, so I can, if you need to prop something up, I can screw it down to this. Also, I can draw on it. So like there, I took some notes about where the edge of the seat is. These lines, like right here, this is the center line of the car. So really good idea, I think, that I went with this this piece of wood, or this wood platform. Let's just hope it doesn't catch on fire when I start welding. All right, so I think that's it for today, and then tomorrow I think I'm going to start welding up. So I mocked up this wheel arch here, and the position I had the seat before is not going to work. You can see the seat is already kind of encroaching on the other side. So this is like the biggest possible wheel. I'm thinking I have to go to a smaller size. I put the biggest wheels that are on Cobras just so I could maybe account for that, but it looks like it's just way too big. I'm gonna have to go with a smaller size. But you know, I like making these templates here because I can kind of get the spacing figured out without having to do it in my head. All right, let's keep thinking of how to do this. Got the seat all marked out. I had this wheel in a little bit too far that way. It was like 3 inches off. I did some more measurements on the body and realized I was off, so it gave me a little bit more space. I'm thinking this will be the final seat position right here. The edge right there is right in the center of the car. Pretty close to the transmission tunnel. You can see down in there. So hopefully I will have enough clearance, but I'm going to go on, or assume this is going to be the final layup for the seat. And now I can start working a little bit more on the frame. The frame, how it's going to be, just a basic summary of what's going to happen. I have this tubing here. It's 1.1 5/8 tubing, 3/16 thickness. This is going to be the outside of the frame. So I'm going to have 2 long lengths that go on the outside. The doors are going to be fixed. So the only way to get in and out of the car is actually going to be going over the doors, stepping over the doors. The reason I did that is going to be more of like a race-oriented vehicle. And I wanted better strength and stiffness in the frame. So what I'm going to do is have this tubing here be run along the whole side of the vehicle. So I'm going to have an upper bar and then a lower bar, basically the very top of the door and then the bottom of the door. You can see I made some marks here on the wheel about the height of those tubes. Then there's going to be cross bracing, and those are going to be kind of the main structure of the frame, those 2 bars. Obviously, I'm also going to have a floor, which I'm going to build out of this square tubing here, just because it's a little bit easier to work with. And I also want to have a flat floor for the car, for aerodynamics. So that's why I went with the square tubing, because it's going to be easier to mount the floor onto that. Also, it's a little bit cheaper. And that will be basically how the frame is going to look out. So this guy is kind of messed up. I screwed up the angle. What's nice about here is I can draw these angles, but I'm going to actually get rid of this. What I thought about is actually having a square tube go the whole length of the floor up to the front, which I wasn't doing before. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to take the seat away, start cutting up some steel and welding it up.